to meet everyone. Thank you all for joining today. So I'm just going to start off a little bit of background about me. I did go through a BSMD program myself, the one at UC San Diego, an accelerated program, and I'm finishing up my last year of medical school before I start my internship in internal medicine. So starting off with what BSMD programs are. So BSMD programs are combined Bachelor of Science and Doctor of Medicine degree programs, essentially where you get a conditional acceptance into medical school right out of high schools. And as I mentioned, BSMD programs can sometimes be accelerated, so you can finish in 7 years. Otherwise, they're typically 8 years. So this is a more accelerated process than we are seeing with traditional pre-med students who do take 8+ years in their undergraduate plus medical school education. So then directly comparing and contrasting your BSMD programs and your pre-med program. So of course, people who are interested in either program want to eventually become a doctor, most of them. And so a lot of times you're going to come into the question like, do I go into a BSMD program or do I take the traditional route? So as I mentioned earlier, a big benefit with BSMD programs is you do get that conditional acceptance into medical school. So personally, I felt like that was a really great option for me. I knew 100% I wanted to go into medicine. And so for me, I didn't feel like I needed those 4 years of undergraduate to really explore different interests and figure out if medicine was the right career for me. So the great thing with BSMD programs is you don't really need to go through the formal medical school acceptance application process, and you don't even have to take the MCAT at some places. When we compare that to pre-med programs, this is great for students who think that they might want to go into medicine, but still have some doubts about if there are other career paths that they may be interested in. And if within medicine, they want to, explore other avenues like PA or NPs. You don't have that conditional acceptance, but you do have more freedom in your undergrad studies. Also already touched upon is the accelerated timeline that comes with BSMD programs, 7 or 8 years. Versus pre-med programs where you do have a longer time course. But the benefit with that is it does give a lot of students a lot of time to really figure out, number one, if they want to go into medicine, and number two, since medical school is such a hard process and your training does go on for so long, it does give you and students a nice break in between finishing undergraduate and starting medical school, which hearing from my classmates, that has been like a game changer and a great option for them. The third point with BSMD programs, as I mentioned, because you have to make such a decision, like such a big decision early in life, it is a good option if you do feel like you've experienced a lot of things and you're 100% set on medicine because you've really taken the time to understand what a career in medicine looks like. That being said, when you compare it with pre-med programs, the traditional path, students really do get that time to really explore multidisciplines and figure out if they do imagine themselves as doing something different from STEM entirely. So it does kind of give you more experience and life experience if that is what you're searching for. And then finally, BSMD programs are very, very competitive, which is why we really wanted to have this panel and talk to you, all of you, because if you are going to go down this route from personal experience, it is so imperative that you start really early. The acceptance rate currently is around 2.3%. That was very similar to what it was in my during when I was applying to BSMD programs. And this is, lower than the acceptance rate at a lot of really top colleges like Stanford, Harvard, and Columbia. So it's competitive, but it's worth it for a lot of people. But you do need to start earlier. And with pre-med programs, acceptance rates are still very low. They're 6.3%, which is very difficult in and of itself. However, you don't have to really go through all of the steps to really make yourself so competitive right out of high school, because you do have your college years to really prove that you are a good candidate for medicine. So kind of continuing on how competitive it is, we do want to really explain how competitive it is so that we can show you what the solution for that is and what the proper steps are to take. So because the BSMD track is the most sought after dual degree program, the acceptance rates have dropped and are pretty low right now. Your interviews are also going to be at the medical school interviewee level. So when I went through my process, I was getting the same ethical questions, the same problem-based questions, interviews that a lot of medical school applicants were getting, but I had to answer them just coming out of high school versus most students got that experience through college. So it is a very tough interview process as well. And then a lot of programs also have a GPA and MCAT score requirement in order to actually successfully matriculate into medical school. But all of this to say, not to scare you, not to make you freak out or think that you can't do it, but just to really, really stress the importance of why it's so important to start this process early and really work through each step of it, because there are really hard steps in order to actually get into the program. So now the money slide, how Kyros is going to help you get into BSMD programs. So I like to separate it into 3 main points. So first, academic success. Many programs are going to screen students based on their GPA and coursework. So if you don't have a certain GPA, you aren't going to be competitive and you're not even going to be looked at from an application standpoint. Therefore, it's imperative that you do really well in your coursework. Kyros, obviously, we have such a big educator network. We have so many sprint programs dedicated to really ensure that you get those highest AP scores and you do well in your coursework. So we will help you through each step of the way, from course planning to how to succeed in your courses to your AP coursework. All of that Kyros has integrated in its curriculum as well. The second point is your standardized testing. I know another big screening point is your SAT and ACT success. This is going to vary from school to school, but I know when I was applying for the SAT, they did have a bare minimum score that you needed to have. Again, Kyros will definitely help you with this, again, through their sprint programs, educators, tutors, all dedicated to really telling you and teaching you how to master your SAT and standardized tests. 3, your extracurriculars. Again, like I mentioned, a huge part of showing yourself and becoming competitive for BSMD programs is showing that you have done the work. You know what a career in medicine has looked like. You know you've proven that you have taken the initiative and you do have the skills to be successful in medicine. So that includes research, community service, internships, shadowing, and leadership activities, which all will contribute to showing medical schools and BSMD programs that you're ready. Again, Kyros has it's so ingrained within Kyros to help you with your extracurriculars. And we provide students with internships as well. And we're actually going to tell you about an internship that we will help you get if you do, join with Kyros and all. But we are masters in helping you with your extracurriculars. So we definitely can be a crutch for that. And then the 4th is your letter of recommendations. There are so many Kyros webinars dedicated to this, but you want to start early and you want to get letters from people who have known you really well, because these letters are going to prove and show your admission officers that this student has the maturity level to matriculate into medical school the same time they get into, college, and they are really going to be key in transferring that sort of impression of you to the admission committee. So coming on the summer internship that I just mentioned, our other panelist, Dr. Timothy Flannery, actually is an pediatric endocrinologist at CHOP. And as part of the work he does, he mentors a lot of medical students and he mentors a lot of pre-med students. And one of the special things that he actually plays a big role in is the summer internship. I will let him talk about it later in the discussion and panel questions, but essentially, this is a great internship opportunity for students who are interested, where they can get clinical experience, shadowing experience, really understand what it's like to be in the medical field and translate that knowledge into their essays, into their interviews. It's a really, really special opportunity, and we're lucky enough to have Dr. Flannery here with us, who leads that internship. So definitely a great opportunity to consider. So now jumping into the panel discussion questions, as Rebecca mentioned, we have 2 other panelists here. Dr. Jake Joblin, who's my medical student. He also went, I'll let him introduce himself, but we have Dr. Jake Joblin and Dr. Timothy Flannery, who are going to also give their take on their experiences and help answer some of these questions alongside myself. So I'll transfer over to Jake, and then maybe we can transfer to Dr. Flannery and then start with the panel discussion questions.
Sure, sounds good. Thanks, Nikita. Hi, everyone. I'm Jake. So as Nikita mentioned, I'm also at MS4. I'm graduating this year. I'll be continuing my training in internal medicine at Cornell this summer, which I'm excited about. So I actually was a traditional pre-med student. So I did 4 years at Berkeley and then actually took 2 gap years. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit and what that entails before doing medicine at UCL. So even from a really young age, I was super interested in science. So I knew I was more of a science and math type of person and wanted to do something that basically I could put those interests to use. And, I considered even like maybe a basic science type of career, like pharmaceutical engineering seemed really interesting, like a way to help people, which I was also passionate about. But ultimately, I just am really extroverted and like talking to people and having relationships with people. And so I really thought that medicine was a good intersection of that, being able to, have rapport with your patients, being able to talk to people daily, have conversations with them, but also kind of serve these interests in, science and critical thinking. And so kind of putting those 2 things together, I really realized that medicine would be like a perfect career for me and decided to pursue it.